So good morning, everybody. It is the 25th of February 2023, and of course yesterday was the anniversary of the supposed beginning of the special military operation. I guess it really was the beginning of the special military operation, at least from Russia's side, but the real anniversary might be like it's 9 years, because it didn't really start a year ago. This thing started in 2014. And Russia just, I guess, supposedly entered into this conflict, 1 year ago, because they decided it's probably better to be defending these people that are losing their lives in the Donbass. And yeah, the telltale part of all this, as you know, is that the press and the government, world governments, all of them, virtually, which you look at the press of the world, and I'm talking about the corporate media, and it was rarely reported, or practically not reported at all, in any country. I'm not just talking about the United States and Germany and Sweden and the UK or anything like that. We're talking about maybe some of these, I guess you'd call them unaligned or non-aligned nations or whatever. I don't think it was even put out very much in Africa or South America, places like that, because I think they get a lot of their media based on some of these US-based or Western-based media sources, maybe like Reuters or whatever. And I don't know about videos, but they get it all from from the I guess Western sources. So the game is rigged against everybody, but a lot of people already know that what was going on, and I think it was in 8 years before that military operation started, it was like 14,000 people. 14,000 people were killed by shelling, Ukraine's shelling of the Donbass. So I don't know, but a lot of that, what I was going to also be talking about today, instead of talking about a lot of these current events. You had I was saying, I think last week, that the last weeks or 10 days approximately of February were going to be real doozies. And of course you had Biden went to Ukraine. What a brave guy he was. You heard those sirens. Oh boy, air raid sirens. And Putin gave his, I guess you'd call it, State of the Union address to Russia. And it's not very difficult to figure out, whose speech was better. And, you've heard some things from other people, like the foreign minister of India, very brilliant guy, as everybody says. I'll mention him too in a minute. But this information, let's talk about GDI. If you've ever heard of the GDI, which that is a Soros-based organization. It's called the Global Disinformation Index, and I don't think it's very old. And it is a branch of the NED, National Endowment of Democracy. But this GDI is based in the UK, so it's not a US based, although it is very, very much ingrained in the United States. So that's very telling. It's for the most part, it shows how maybe the UK and the US are joined at the hip in doing a lot of things. And you can see that there are a lot of countries that are joined with the United States, and now we know that Norway is. Seymour Hersh came out and said, I guess in the last couple of days, that Norway and the United States have a history. Even it goes back into not World War II. I'm talking the Vietnam War, when Norway was assisting the United States in doing these, let's be honest, terrorist acts. So Norwegian divers, they work with the United States and conduct terrorist activities. If it was some other country, you'd call it terrorism. So why don't we just call a spade a spade? If it's the United States doing it, or even Russia doing something like that, which doesn't appear to be the case ever, but at least not lately, not since the fall of the Soviet Union. But why don't we just call it terrorism? Because that's what it is. It's not even state-sponsored terrorism. It is state-perpetrated terrorism. So I guess that would be a little bit worse if you think about it. But these people will never be held to account for it, as you know. And there was this United Nations meeting, and Ray McGovern, former, CIA, and Jeffrey Sachs, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, they gave testimony. They were asked by the Russians to give testimony, their opinion for the UN Security Council, and of course they did. They did a very good job, and it was all very truthful, and it's online. You can see that. I really appreciate Jeffrey Sachs. He's very well spoken, very knowledgeable, very accredited. There's really nothing you can say bad about his character, nor his information. So you should find that online. Jeffrey Sachs' address to the United Nations recently. But anyway, this global disinformation index, which is part of George Soros. It's mostly Soros funded, but it's also, through the U.S. State Department, which controls the National Endowment for Democracy. So it's funded by you, the American people, as well. And supposedly, the task of this GDI is disrupting the business of disinformation. And of course, it's just like No Child Left Behind or whatever the deal is. It's completely the opposite of what the title says, or the Patriot Act, which suspends the U.S. Constitution, which is, the most patriotic document in the United States. So, the Patriot Act is nothing. There's nothing patriotic. It's exactly the opposite. This, disinformation organization by George Soros is actually to put out disinformation. And I hope I'm going to get away with saying this stuff on YouTube. And some people are saying that they want me to continue this on putting things on Rumble, but hardly anybody watches these on Rumble, and it takes even longer to upload these things on Rumble than it is on YouTube. So you make some, like, say, 40-minute video, and it takes you more than half the day, for them to download and to process and all that sort of stuff. So that it's just sitting there, and it just takes so very long to do this stuff. So, that's not even counting, if you'd have to do any kind of editing or not. And I'm hoping I'm not going to have to do any. I try not to do any editing or put this, and unless somebody hits me with a snowball or my pants fall down or something like that, I don't know. I don't want to, turn it on and turn it off. But this video camera that I have right now, I think it records something up to, I don't know, maybe 15 to 17 minutes, and then I gotta also, it's like editing, so I have to attach the next one when it stops and goes on, and and connect them all together. And then when you do this processing, and it takes even longer again to do it that way. Hope nobody's coming here. Trying to find a place, to make these videos. And right now it's snowing, in case you haven't noticed, and a lot of snow on the ground. And this camera's not waterproof. And there's always people walking around. It doesn't even matter what the weather is in Russia, or Belarus, I mean, or Russia, I guess. There's always people all over the place, and all kinds of weather. So probably if it was a hurricane, you'd see people running around outside. There's going to be a lot more of it when it gets sunny and hot. So I'm not in Athens or Nicosia, Greece, or Cyprus, or something like that. Athens, Greece, or Nicosia, Cyprus. But anyway, But anyway, this GDI, it is also connected to, guess who? Victoria Nuland. She's as you know, a best buddies with George Soros, and you could call them partners in crime, and they are, of course, very much responsible for what's going on in Ukraine. And I think George Soros was talking about it, I think just a little over 2 years ago. Basically, he sees this as his project. And you see also evidence that the Ukraine, and I think I've even heard Alex Christoforou say this. A lot of people have said that, in truth, during the Obama years, Joe Biden was basically the president of the Ukraine. So that's a big project for Joe Biden, and of course Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has numerous organizations. They're not just Burisma and Rosemont Seneca. He's got other ties in there too, and they make lots of money from Ukraine. Exploiting the country and the people, and of course exploiting the U.S. citizens through different ways as well. Unless you if you want to start looking around and connecting all the dots, a lot of people are already doing that. So, I don't really have to do it, and I don't really have the time, Even if I had nothing to do, I wouldn't want to have the time to be connecting this. You start reading this stuff in in articles and all that, and to be sitting around taking notes. I don't get paid for YouTube, so I don't need to spend 8 hours a day, preparing information just to put up a video. I try to keep up on the news, and then I'm coming out and saying it, just giving my take. It's just my opinion. Everybody's putting out their opinion. We all have different experiences, so we add all this stuff, and hopefully somebody finds it valuable. And I appreciate comments from other people because all of you have different experiences as well, and I found them very valuable. So I have to at least add that to that as well. But the GDI, I think the National Endowment of Democracy, I believe, at least temporarily, has pulled funding for the GDI. As I was saying, they get funding from all over the place, and the new Republican Congress had figured out that the GDI was saying, let's see if I have it written down here somewhere, that they're, I don't know if it was a quote, it was, but anyway, they looked at the Republican Party as the biggest threat, So it's like saying, I don't know, maybe they think it's a bigger threat than China or Russia or Putin or who knows what. So anyway, they were pressured to, for the NED to stop funding. But as I just said, there's so many other ways that it's getting funded as well. And a lot of these people, they'll probably just up the funding. They'll just give them more to replace whatever the NED was sending to the GDI. And like I said, it's funded in part by the NED, National Endowment for Democracy. And as you know, the NED is the entity that is very much responsible for regime change and overthrowing governments. Active mostly in the past, at least in the 1980s and all that, was in South America. Probably it was with the overthrow of Honduras and probably Panama. I don't know. I didn't see specifically if it was Panama, but Nicaragua, very heavily involved in Nicaragua. I think Daniel Ortega, the president of Nicaragua, really hates the NED, and National Endowment of Democracy. It's another thing like trying to fight disinformation or National Endowment of Democracy. When democracy is their main target. They hate democracy. It's all these acronyms. It just makes you laugh. Whenever you see the title of something, you can just figure, if it's coming from the United States, that normally the true mission is exactly the opposite of what the title tells you. So let's see. So yeah, overthrowing governments, regime change, and then there's another thing that it was funded by. There's something called the Global Engagement Center, which is the GEC, which also is part of the State Department. All of these alphabet organizations, and how many of them are there? You can go on endlessly, and then sometimes they use the same alphabet, acronyms or whatever for some other thing. Like there was the Red Army faction, RAF, same letters as the Royal Air Force. So, and both of them have done some questionable activities, I guess I would say. That was the RAF. In case you've never heard of it, it's the Red Army faction, and that was the Biedermannhof gang. It was back in the 80s when I was in the military, and they had at one time attacked my boss, supposedly with a Russian grenade launcher, and it might have been. I'm not saying it's not. And it was an armor-plated car. I wasn't the one driving it at the time, and it was before I started working there, a year or two before I started working there. Actually, I have to say that. And they shot it into the back of the car. Only a couple scratches to the general. So we were a big target and had a lot of security around us. Trained with a lot of different types of weapons, anti-terrorist, training thing, and all that sort of good stuff. I'm not gonna brag, just letting you know that I was doing that involved. I mean, not involved. How do I say this? Anyway, that I'm familiar. I'm familiar with a lot of this kind of stuff. So, and along with Victoria Nuland, and she's very good, very, very good friends with George Soros. You hear Elon Musk, he came out and he tweeted that Nuland is the main person behind the Ukraine conflict, keeping it going. And that's not an exaggeration at all. I mean, most people realize right now that it is Victoria Nuland that runs. She runs the entire thing. She runs the Ukraine war. I mean, not from the Russian side, of course, but from the Western side. Remember I said last time, the last video I made, and it was Victoria Nuland saying that if what was it, Benjamin Netanyahu gives these weapons, which is it was early detection weapons, that as soon as a weapon gets fired off, it's probably done by satellite. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It must be done by satellite. So as soon as any sort of a missile gets launched by the Russian side, and they know about it almost immediately, and they can shoot it down. So it was an early detection warning system, and that Victoria Nuland said if Benjamin Netanyahu, sends these weapons, this ability or whatever, this system to Ukraine, that she will give him the Nobel Peace Prize. So I guess Victoria Nuland is the one that decides on who gets a Peace Prize. And so doing things having to do with war, I guess that gives you a Nobel Peace Prize. It's like Obama, I think I mentioned that too. Obama, he was in no position to do anything for or against war or peace. He was not even president yet, and they gave him the Nobel Prize, so Peace Prize. Very, very strange stuff, But what was I saying here? Another comment. What was it that Jaishankar, the foreign minister of India, said about Soros? What did he call him? I wrote it down here. He's old, he's rich, he's opinionated, and he's dangerous. And of course he is, in so many different ways. He's 92 years old. He's not going to be around that much longer. And his son, what is his son's name? I don't know if it was Alexander or whatever. But he's going to take over, and he's just like old George. And there's going to be plenty of people. I'm sure George, being 92 years old, I'm sure he knows that he's not going to be around forever. And I'm sure he's figured out ways to keep this goodness going, this democracy and open societies, and it was the GEC that I was just mentioning. They're the ones that pressured Twitter, to go after all these people. Anybody that is not sympathetic, say, to the Ukraine war or whatever, they're labeled a agent of Putin, and we're taken off. So you have to be sympathetic to that. Otherwise, you're linked to Russia, even if there's no ties. There's no ties to you having anything to do, with India. And also, Jaishankar, he probably said that because recently George Soros is coming out and he says that he is actively working very hard to conduct a regime change in India to get rid of Modi. And that could mean anything. It could mean just some sort of a civil unrest. It could mean assassination or anything like that, I don't know that George Soros does the assassinations. I think there's other departments that he is linked to, of course, that does assassinations. I don't know. I'm not going to say that he's killing people. So you don't really know, but there's other, yeah. Yeah, it's all because Modi, the leader of India, has got too friendly relations with Russia, and of course they're getting along better than before with China. So it looks like there might be some sort of a better relationship, just like between maybe Iran and Saudi Arabia, as well as Syria and Turkey, and this multipolar world, is starting to bring people together, and the West doesn't like this. The West, it's like, what was this? There's a Jewish phrase or something like that. And I think maybe it's partly to do with Nietzsche, like Nietzsche, I believe, said out of chaos comes order. He said that in so many ways, but you know, a lot of entities, they want people to be fighting, and because they see opportunities, you know, how they can exploit the situation for their own good, you know. So, but Soros's big blanket organization is the Open Society Foundation, and you know, that also funded the Black Lives Matter, as you know. George Soros is one of the main founders of the Black Lives Matter, and I'll bet you he's back behind LBGTQ plus, whatever the heck all that kind of alphabet stuff is, you know. Google has come out just recently, and they said that they are going to go after any entity that is against open societies. So, you know, and I'm always wondering, is Ukraine an open society? Well, I guess that doesn't extend to Russians, because like Zelensky said, Russians are not humans, they're a species. So I guess that only means for humans. You know, humans, you know, have to support open societies. You know, but the, you know, Russians, they you know, which means also Belarusians. And it means Ukrainians too. It also means Ukrainians. But that's for later. That's for sometime later down the road. But they're being useful right now. You know, you ever heard of that term, useful idiots? Well, makes you wonder when the Ukrainians are going to wake up. And you know, a lot of people, they accuse George Soros of being Jewish, but he's not Jewish. He's atheist. He used to be Jewish, and I believe he was at the time when he was a young boy, in the 1930s, when this guy named Adolf and his band of people, you know, were raging throughout large parts of Europe. You know, of course, to include like Belarus and Poland and Ukraine. And well, Ukraine was on their side. The Baltic states was on Adolf's side. Finland was on Adolf's side. So you can't really just imagine that it was just Adolf's, pushing his people, you know, in this direction, and Italy and Japan as allies. They had a lot of other allies too. So, you know, a lot of the, like I said, the Chihuahua states, you know, the Baltic states. So, you know, I think it's, what is it right now? They have 4.5 million people, all three countries combined. Anyway, so, but yeah, if you think Ukraine is an open society, I don't know. But like I said, I was saying Jewishness, and Soros isn't Jewish, and it really makes you wonder. Zelensky and all of his top people, I've said before, are supposed to be Jewish, but yet this Azov group and some of these other ones, Right Sector, and there's other ones as well. There's a lot of these people, and I wonder what they think about Jewish people. Not just Russians, Jewish people, Polish people. Anybody that doesn't have Ukrainian blood, apparently, is not quite up to the standards, maybe, of the Ukrainian people. So yeah, just so you know that, and you can think about that in the future if things go pear-shaped. So, but you know, open society, it's open borders, funding immigration, you know, the trains and all that, you know, picking people up and flooding them into other countries, and you know, with making sure that they have a different culture than the country that they're going to. And I think a lot of that is to get rid of religion, get rid of Judaism, get rid of Christianity, and you can thank old Gorgeous George for all that, you know, because I think that's one thing that they hate, and it's, you see that in a lot of countries in Europe, and you certainly do that in the government in the United States, what they think about religion. And if you know Syria, Palestine, a lot of them, a huge portion of those are Christians. And then, of course, even the Muslims. So it makes you really wonder why these Muslim terrorist groups back then would destroy Muslim shrines, artifacts, and all that sort of thing. It makes no sense. And how do they all get British accents, a lot of these people? You know, or American accents, you know, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, you know, very, you know. and it's also another thing. If you remember back in those days, and like I remember back in my time and all that, if you went to some terrorist and you said, oh, are you an Al-Qaeda or something? What's Al-Qaeda? The toilet? You mean the toilet? Because the word Al Qaeda means toilet, I guess, in Arabic. So, and they didn't call themselves. I think that was just some designation, that maybe somebody in the United States government attached to them, Al Qaeda. They didn't have any idea that they were Al Qaeda. ISIS, I have no idea. I don't know. I wasn't in the military at that time, but Al Qaeda, I don't know who used that word. Maybe just the news. And look at how we're all forced to go along with that too, and we all believe that, But yeah, also this open societies, as you know, that was to make fund people that became prosecutors and high people in the justice system, and then whenever there's a crime like a murder committed or something like that, a lot of them they're never prosecuted, and drug charges, not even maybe going to prison, for serious drug charges, murders, robberies. What is it? And there's some places in the United States you can go in and shoplift as long as it's under $300, and they have to let you go. I mean, I've heard that. And then you, along with that, what's another form of stealing? Remember this civil asset forfeiture in America, that the police, if they find like a significant amount of money over some certain amount, or something of value, new in a car, that they can just seize it, and you have no recourse to get it back. I mean, you can look that up. Anybody out there that doesn't know that already, civil asset forfeiture, and it goes on and on. I remember that if you're paying with, I think it was more than a 20. I don't know if it's still in effect in certain states. I don't know, because I think one of them was Florida, but under Ron DeSantis, I don't think that would be the case. That I think if you pay more than with a $20 bill, that you have to fill out paperwork. Say if you had a 50, you have to fill out paperwork as to where did you get this 50. I don't know. Like I said, I don't live in the States. I'm just hearing all these crazy things, and there's much more you hear about. I don't know if all this stuff is true. A lot of time you say that can't be true. That's just too far out, and and Google also, they had something done. I guess it was this anti-Ukraine information thing. They ran this in Poland first, and everything was like canceled. That anything that was anti-Ukraine, I guess they censored it, and that would mean like YouTube and everything. And apparently it was even on TikTok. They everything that was not pro-Ukraine was censored off, and I guess they were successful. So now they're extending that. They're going to drastically increase anti-Ukraine information in Germany. So this is going to be going to Germany too. So anything that's anti-Ukrainian, and when I was in Europe, I couldn't believe it. When was this? Just this last summer. This was in July, and you don't get any transmissions on. You can't get anything on your cell phone, like anything that's Russian, and everything has to be pro-Ukraine. That was in Latvia. It was very extreme in Latvia when I was there. And Germany, I tried to get, news from RT or Sputnik or something, and of course it wouldn't come up because that was all blocked. It was blocked in France. So all this stuff, I could come up with a channel and just tell everybody, since it's on YouTube, and I can start telling you things that are just on Sputnik and RT, and have a channel just for that. And I get a lot of Europeans, I'm sure, to watch, because a lot of them probably want to know what is coming up on RT and Sputnik. But guess what? I am a lot of this stuff that I'm talking right now. This comes from RT and Sputnik. As a little bit from television over here or something like that. Whatever that I can understand or things. There's all sorts of information out there. So in that case, when they start to do all this censoring, if you really want to get any kind of news, you're probably going to have to go to Rumble. And I don't even know. I wonder if Rumble's even censoring some things. But Google, Facebook, TikTok, Google, of course, meaning also YouTube and all that. And they get more backing. There's this, I guess, from the University of Cambridge. And Jigsaw is the operation from Google that does a lot of this stuff. But the University of Cambridge has been doing, and they're doing researches with medicine and manipulation of images, and they call this pre-bunking. And And pre-bunking, and it's to inoculate anybody watching any news or anything anywhere, apparently inoculate you against disinformation, which, you know, we wouldn't call it disinformation. It's like, I don't even, you know, I tell you what, I get speechless. Like, you can't even talk about this. You can't even talk about this stuff. What they call disinformation is true information. Very, very, I don't know. It's, talk about Orwellian. Very Orwellian world, people. Very Orwellian. Oh, look at, somebody's going to be coming probably here. I don't know. Probably wonder what I'm doing here. Inoculate the public against information. And then with medical research and all this, remember this pandemic that we had recently? And that is not over yet. That's not over yet. And I guess my old friend Billy Gates, he's extending a lot of stuff. He's doing lots of things in the background, working with the World Health Organization, because they're gearing up for some sort of a thing. I don't know if it's going to be another form of the same affliction that we had before, you know, with the spike proteins and all that sort of thing, or if they're gonna come up with something brand new, you know, some other sort of thing like that. So I tell you, you know, everybody's got to be staring at me, you know, especially if they hear English. You know, I don't know. I don't like getting so much attention. You know, here I am going on YouTube, and I don't like getting attention. So anyway, so let's see. And also, you know, you talk about, see, most of this, what I'm telling you right now, this is all about information and news sources and stuff. But remember the World Economic Forum, and they've even come out and said they have this technology and they're going to do it. Even for some odd reason, I don't understand. I think probably in a different way. Elon Musk, he's also in favor of something of this form, but probably not to, you know, not as far as the information. I wouldn't think Elon Musk would be into that, you know. Elon Musk, we all have to hope that he's going to come out with some sort of if he's going to put some kind of a brain chip, that, you know, like what they're trying to do, what the World Economic Forum is trying to do to people. I don't know, maybe they find a way to force it into you. God forbid. And but if Elon Musk is doing it, I hope he can come up with some kind of a chip that makes you know, these evil people's chips ineffective. I don't know, cancels it out, as you say. You never know what's going on. But this chip, of course, that the World Economic Forum wants us in, to put into everybody's heads, is to make us so we can think properly. So the goal is to make you think properly, you know, mostly about news and whatnot. And just think of this chip, they turn it on and they turn it off. They can do all kinds of stuff to you. I think anybody watching this, you know, is not going to get any kind of a chip put in their head. You know, it makes you wonder when they're going to start forcing people, like you can't get into a supermarket or something unless you have some sort of a chip. You know, that's what they were planning, remember, with this last pandemic. And that's why I had to leave the small, tiny little island country that I was in the Caribbean, because, you know, that's what they were going towards. You can't go here, you can't do this, you can't do that, unless you've, you know, unless you're inoculated from this pandemic and all that sort of thing. And I had to get away from that, you know. Remember that winter of death? Remember? There was some whitehead guy that said Corn Pop is a bad dude. And he also said that the unvaxxed people are in for a winter of death, which was last winter. And of course, it's not even really happened this winter. Very strange. Very strange. I wonder, these people, I don't know. But see, if you say something different, if there wasn't a winter of death, then that's disinformation, you know? So, you know, you know, all those people that didn't listen, and look they're all dead. Look at me, I'm dead. I'm dead right now. Because it was a winter of death for the uninoculated. You know, what am I wearing this hood for? I don't know. I'm under a covered area, you know. Yeah. But, you know, like Tucker, Jimmy Dore, all those people, you know, I guess they all died too, you know. But I also want to, like, you know, tell you that if you really think that the United States government and all these neocons, that they care anything, if they care anything about the Ukrainian people, you know, I got a garage to sell you. I'll do like what Cristoforo does. Normally it's everybody says a bridge to sell you. I said that in one video a long time ago, and everybody was thinking that I was copying Alex Cristoforo, but I guess that's an expression. I got a bridge to sell you or something. But he just finds whatever's in his area and he says he's going to sell it to you. I got a garage to sell you. You know, if you think that they care about the Ukrainian people or whatnot, you know, watch them fight to the last Ukrainian. Oh, I love those people. Love them so much. You know, there's not going to be any of them left. You know, that's how much they love them. Gosh, you know, and then territorial integrity. And where did Ukraine? How did that become such a big country like that? And why is it that a huge portion of them in one area are basically they speak Hungarian and they don't feel any affinity towards Ukraine, and in one section they're at least just as sympathetic to Poland as they are to Ukraine. And one of them, they never felt anything towards Ukraine. I mean, huge areas called the Crimea and the Donbass area. You know, they're very happy, you know, where they're at right now. And territorial integrity of Ukraine. But I'll tell you what, if Russia does not go even further, if Russia doesn't go as far as Odessa, maybe Transnistria. You hear about all this stuff going on now. Soon Transnistria. Ukraine is amassing forces, you know, near Transnistria, and then they got a new prime minister of Moldova, and he's all for that too. So something might be kicking off very, very soon here in Transnistria. That might even happen today, as far as I know. Who knows? You know, and there's supposed to be a lot of this old Soviet era ammunition there, and Ukraine needs ammunition, but it makes me wonder if that stuff is that old. Do you think a lot of it's going to be either duds, or it's going to be, if it's dynamite, it's going to be unstable? I don't know. You want to handle that stuff? I don't know. I'm not an ammunitions expert, so, but you can see why they might want it. Take Transnistria, and who's it going to go to anyway? Ukraine, or is it going to go to Moldova? And I think at one point it was, I believe, Romania, but Romania is too far away. So, but it's a disputed territory, and there's the Russians that are there now. I think it was Alexander Mercouris. He said, I think it was like 1,200 Russian peacekeepers there. They're not really soldiers, so, you know, let's see if they get attacked, and they're going to be called terrorists or who knows what, you know. Yeah, anyway, where was I at here? The integrity. Yeah, no, but the U.S. doesn't even care about who, you know, this territorial integrity, as long as Russia doesn't get it. And, you know, that's all they care about, you know, and they want, of course, like I've always said, the Crimea. And if you start watching the news and seeing things that happen, you can see that the U.S. goal was the Crimea. But, you know, a lot of them are talking now that it's probably beyond their reach. But the neocons, you know, nothing is beyond their reach. I don't think they ever give up. I think it was on the Duran. They also said, I watch the Duran a lot. Yeah, they said that these neocons, they don't have a reverse gear, you know, and the big neocon. Actually, she's not the big neocon, but she may as well be, is Victoria Nuland. You know, at least she's the big spokesperson for it. There's some guy here, you know, going to his garage, probably wondering what I'm doing here. Probably writing everything down. Maybe this is his buddy's garage, and they're going to say I was doing something. Who knows? Why else would he be sitting there like that? I tell you, I don't like doing this. I wait till I have my own place. I'll sit down like Emil Kosman, watch his videos, and I can sit down on my desk and do whatever I want, talk. Nobody's going to be giving me Google eyes. Anyway. Yes, indeed. But yeah, getting the Crimea is only just it's a major step that the U.S. sees for defeating Russia. And of course, the whole thing is aimed at defeating Russia. You know, this, what do they call it, a wet dream of these neocons. And they just can't get away from their dream of conquest against Russia. And I think mostly it's because of the resources that Russia has. Who knows? Russia's, and I'm living over here, and Russians and Belarusians, they're not antagonistic people, and not in any way, shape, or form. They don't have any. You think they need more territory? They got a lot of resources. You think they need more resources? They can. They can't even do that great of a job yet. At least in Russia, Belarus doesn't have much of resources, unfortunately. And it's still a tremendous country with no resources. They have fertilizer. It's no natural resources. But Russia has a lot, and if they're not really doing as good a job as they wish to recovering those natural resources, do you think they're going to want somebody else's resources as well, that they can't recover? None of this makes any sense. It doesn't. You can think from A to B, and you can get your answer. You don't have to go even to C there, But the important part is that you think. And a lot of these neocons, I don't know, maybe they're not thinking. They want to come over here and exploit everything, and they want to get the gold or oil or who knows what all. Makes me wonder why they're not going so much more after Venezuela that has all that stuff. Most resource-rich country for its size on earth is Venezuela. So, they did a lot of destruction there, but maybe there's something to keep them from there. Now I'm sure the United States is in Guyana, For those of you that didn't know, they had a major oil find in Guyana, and it's got at least it was I think last year, the fastest growing economy in the world. It's like in double digit improvements every year. There's something like 30-something%, of development. Really, really massive, much larger than China had ever experienced. So look, if you want to look into Guyana, it's very, South America, very interesting stuff. And plus they got timber trees. They got all sorts of rare woods and things like that. And most of the country is jungle, and it's inaccessible. You can go by rivers. You have to go there by airplane for most of the country. Very wild country. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I can say about that. I don't want to get too much on tangents anyway. But like I said, it's just a major step, the Crimea, And before this conflict, Russia was developing Novorossiya, which is another port, and they were going to make that big in tourism. It was before the COVID, stuff came out, and it was huge development. It was going to be, it's actually, I don't know if it still is or it was like the biggest major port for Russia, at least on the western side of Russia. Maybe it was even bigger than Vladivostok, I don't know. Or, of course, bigger than St. Petersburg. But huge place that you never hear much about, Novorossiya. But now, of course, this this whole stuff since at least 2014, now Russia, it has the Crimea. So the West can thank themselves for that, shooting themselves in the foot, But, yeah, but you have to really, ask yourself, well, what does the U.S. get, from bombing those pipelines, and what are the consequences, And Joe Biden and some of his buddies that conceived this plan, they were only thinking, obviously, of the short term and maybe a medium term a little bit, the short term gain, and Seymour Hersh has come out and said, I don't know, maybe talking to certain people, and he's got more than one source. Everybody says, oh, he's only got one source. No, he's even mentioned he's got other sources, but the other sources were not as in the know as this one source, but he's got a lot of other sources where he got a lot of information. And then he was saying that it was the bombing of the pipeline was to ensure that Germany can't, change their mind so that they'll be all in on going against Russia. And of course, the U.S., their big goal was to separate any possibility of Russia and Germany getting together, because one has a lot of natural resources and the other one has tremendous high-quality production. But and stop Germany's rise. And Nord Stream 2, would mean that Germany could continue their powerful economic rise, and of course the U.S. had to shut that down. Part of the full spectrum dominance, full spectrum dominance, you know, and all these policies of the United States to shoot down as many countries that has any kind of a economic potential at all. They think that it makes their economy better by shooting down other economies. Maybe there is some truth to that. I don't know. But, you know, I think, you know, these good quality products that were coming out of Germany, well, still are, it makes U.S. manufacturing look worse. You know, it makes them weaker. And that was probably the main reason for all of this. And that's, of course, the main reason why the USA is going after China. You know, after they hate China. But China is far more powerful, and it's not going to happen so easy with China. So it's toast for the United States, you know. It's toast. It's toast. It just, it's happened already. Actually, I'm firmly believe the Chinese economy is far more powerful than the United States economy right now. But, you know, they're measuring things in like some sort of a GDP. You know, the financial sector, transferring money back and forth and all over the place. They call that wealth in the United States. They call that part of the GDP or whatever like that. But nothing is being created. Nothing's being sold really. I mean, sure, they're printing money, and the money is, you know, is going back and forth to all these sides. But it's not, in my opinion, it's not real wealth. You know, that's, I don't know. There's a lot of different types of economic opinions, and I should look into some of those too. It's very, very fascinating stuff. But go to China. Go to China and go to some of these major cities, and you'll see that there's a huge difference between a major city in America and a major city in China, and you'll find out for yourself what I'm talking about. But you know, the big elephant in the room, you know, that the United States, you know, doesn't really see. Everybody knows about it, you know, and when I say it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But they don't seem to see that. You know, they went after the relationship with Russia and Germany, but the big elephant in the room right now is obviously the multipolar world. That is the big elephant, and I don't think the United States can defeat that elephant. And the large part of that is the relationship. Some people call it an alliance, but is it an alliance or is it just a relationship? It's a relationship between China and Russia. And they're certainly not one country, and they never will be one country, but they are very much joined. And it's getting closer with other countries as well. This multipolar world, a lot of people, it's appealing to a lot of these countries, and a lot of countries are flocking to it, as you see. Africa is flocking to it, and the United States is not getting much traction at all in Africa. I don't know why they're not trying to push South America. They probably feel that it's so easy, that's so close, and you know, it's not going to work for them getting into the multipolar world, but you never know. Except for maybe Brazil, because it's part of the BRICS. But, you know, India, Africa continent, Saudi Arabia, you know, they're all signed on. Turkey's got a good economy too, and they got a big military, and they're all signing on to the multipolar world. You know, Iran is nothing to be sneezed at, even though they've had all these sanctions. They still have a fairly young population. They have resources and very intelligent people. So, you know, this is really something. You know, it's a relationship. It's a relationship. You know. You know, like I said, it was the resources of Russia and the production capacity of Germany that they were afraid of. And now, as Germany now is a big ally of the United States, it's actually just a puppet. It's a useful idiot. The German people probably know that. And of course, probably old Baerbock and Schultz and Habeck and some of these other people, and of course even those that are opposed to, you know, Germany being a puppet, you know, like Wagenknecht and you know, and others, you know, and the United States blowing up that pipeline. You know what it actually did in the long term? They just weakened one of their strongest allies. So they took the money out of the pocket of an entity that should actually be helping them to defeat Russia. So Germany's going to be less likely, and it's going to start showing. It's going to start to show very soon. That Germany is going to be, I don't know, maybe like Italy was, and maybe Italy's going to get weaker too. But anyway, we're going to see a considerable weakening of Europe, which includes the Great Britain as well. And it's just a matter of time. As over time, things are going to get worse and worse. Energy costs are way too high. They don't realize that a lot of their power came from Russia. It came from the cheap energy of Russia. And it's almost worse than shooting yourself in the foot. It's like cutting your legs off, So this is a big nightmare for them, and they don't even realize it yet. Oh, those who dig a hole will surely fall in it, or oh, what a terrible web we weave when we practice to deceive. I don't know. The wisdom seems to be leaving a lot of people's minds now. A lot of these quips were made because there was a lot of wisdom in it, So this bond between Russia and China, watch out, boy. And a lot of these other people, like I say, they're tired of this subservience. And but Germany, I don't know, makes you really wonder what's going on there. And I'll tell you, the way I see it is, the Greens Party is now the war party, is the big war party in Germany. It's very strange. You never would have thought about that 20 years ago. What is it, Fischer? Fischer was some politician's name, back in the early days of the Green Party when they first got 5% and were able to get representation in government at that time. And he was, I think he was was he foreign minister under Gerhard Schroeder, was Fischer. But anyhow, but Germany, I'll tell you, and somebody wrote to me, I won't mention her name, but one of the subscribers wrote to me, and I wasn't really aware of this, but Olaf Scholz had a lot of corruption allegations put against him as he was the mayor of Hamburg. And if I combine that situation with what I had seen and learned about mostly in the intelligence, I was in 8th Infantry Division, but I was in an intelligence unit, and I even learned a lot when I was working for this general, for the commanding general of forces in Germany, the commander-in-chief. And so you get these training things like that, and how manipulation works and all that sort of thing. But you find out which types of people did these the bad guys go after, and they go after people that have like weaknesses, like they might have a weakness for little boys, little girls, or sex in general, or money, or anything like that. And then you exploit these weaknesses. You give them what they want in exchange for what you get back from them. And sometimes it's just information. And now, as you know, the United States, they can listen in on any conversations anywhere in the world. They can read all your emails. And they were doing that with Angela Merkel. And I remember, I shouldn't even talk about that, but there was a guy, he told me about this stuff long before it was even announced. He told me back, I think, in the Clinton days, he was talking that the United States is listening in on all of these telephone calls and everything that's going on in Germany. And but anyway, other theories about, different countries, like Israel listens in on everything in the United States, and there's some sort of a trade-off, so that they can't say that they're spying on their own citizens, so they allow another country to, and then the other country reports back to them. I don't know. I don't know if that was just the Five Eyes or whatever, this sort of agreements or whatever to have another country spy on your people, and then give you the information. I don't really know. That sounds kind of crazy to me, but that's what some people had, mentioned before. But anyway, they know a lot about Olaf Scholz, of course, and they can compromise these people. And if you you put them in power, and if some of these people, there was also another politician. Let me go back a little bit more. And Schleswig-Holstein in Germany that committed suicide. I think he slashed his wrists in a in the bathtub, supposedly. Who knows if he did or if somebody did it for him. In any case, but a lot of time when, if people have some information on you and it's, and then they can ruin you, maybe you're, like a politician. There was one in Oregon that liked children or something like that, and they, but anyway, they put you in these positions, and when they have this information or something that they can control you with, then they control you and they own you and they can get you to do anything that they want you to do. And that's the case, trust me, in a lot of the world, in a lot of places today. So let's just consider that, and that's probably, I suspect, maybe there's something to do with that, with Olaf Scholz, and why he went along with, and doesn't say anything about after this pipeline, Anyway, I don't know if that might be about all I have to say, but that if you ask Edward Snowden, or anybody that's been involved in this sort of a field, and they should tell you, what World Economic Forum and a lot of these organizations have in store for us in the future. It's to know everything about everybody, and that's what those chips in your brain are supposed to be, to make it very, very easy. And Facebook, as you know, the CIA, FBI, they said they love Facebook because they can find out just about anything about anybody by just going to Facebook. I don't know if Facebook is still that popular. I don't have Facebook, never did. I don't know, but they can get a lot of information about most anybody they want, from Facebook. And of course, using that information against you somehow, you never know what they might know about you. But yeah. Anyhow, the strategy that Russia is using, as you notice, is beginning to pay off. All that time they never got themselves involved in any kind of regime changes, and coercion, and the stuff that the West does, and instead they use such things as honor, and so it's becoming the new world order. And it's not going to be hegemony anymore. It's going to be using your brains to initiate trade, and like different countries are going to be using their brains and their productive capacity. Roll your sleeves up, get to work, instead of the cloak and dagger, and bombs and hate and backstabbing, and So honor is going to probably be replacing deceit and lies and who knows what all. That's going to be the new world, or the multipolar world, or new world order, if you want to call it that. And I think that it's the United States is powerless, and the West, all their buddies, George Soros, maybe they're powerless to actually prevent that. But who knows? It's going to be a fight, and this might go for a long time. Russia, trust me, and I know this, is making weapons at a faster rate than they ever have in the past since the Soviet Union collapsed, And the United States, they're also gearing up. They're making a lot of weapons right now too. They're not telling you that. They're putting troops, and more troops are going into the Baltic areas, and there's a lot of things going on, and the U.S. is being silent about it. Russia's trying to be, but I hear more about it because I'm over here, and maybe you're hearing about it over there too. But don't get overconfident that good is going to, at least in the short term, to win over evil, and hopefully it will in the long term. And I hate to say it, but the United States government right now is not on the side of good, And I think you listen to Tulsi Gabbard or Tucker Carlson, a lot of other people, Jimmy Dore. I mean, you can go on and on. You're going to hear that from them too. So it's. I think the best thing is to become a part of the multipolar world, and everybody gets to, compete fairly, against, every country is what I mean, against one another, without, killing people and backstabbing and lying to them, and, all those things that I just mentioned. So we'll see what happens, And, I'll be making more videos. I hope this is not going to be too long, and, did a lot of rambling. And, like I said, I appreciate everybody that's watched. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, as everybody says. Smash that subscribe button. And maybe put a like, put a like right now if you've made it all the way through this video, if you haven't fallen asleep. And from this snow, watching the snowfall, I don't know if you can see those, see the snowfall. So anyway, it looks like we had Christmas here now already. This is late February. When do I have? I have like 2 more weeks of classes. And the bathroom, I went up to Minsk yesterday, and the guys supposed to be doing the bathroom. Most of them, it's not the usual guys that were doing the rest of the apartment, but they were sitting there. They were on break half the time until I started working, moving some things around. We have our doors, interior doors, and I was moving them because tiles are going to be coming for the bathroom, and had to move the doors out of the way to have a place to put the tile. Everything's all crowded with garbage. I was gonna make a little film and show everybody what it looks like, but didn't look too good. You can't hardly find a place to walk. You got tools, a little pile here, some tools over there, and all this kind of stuff. All kinds of delays, things like that. But I don't know. It looks like it's not going to happen by the 15th of March. I'm hoping by the end of March. Can't really move in until I have a bathroom. The bathroom has to be done. So anyway, you know how that is. Sorry for rambling. And thanks for joining me. And yeah, for the next time, I'm hoping I can do the next one, part 2 of showing you, telling you classes about the university. Anybody that's interested. Most people aren't. But I'll make sure that if you like the news, you can watch the news ones. And if you don't need to know about coming to Belarus and learning Russian, very, very cheap. Matter of fact, there's even YouTube vloggers in Russia that are connected with learning Russian here in Belarus at that university. So I think if you look up, there's a family, and it's called Backyard Russia. And the guy came over from Australia, and his parents went to school in Baranovichi to learn Russian. Because the bureaucracy, they couldn't really get into Russia, and it was easier to get into Belarus. So so what a hard place it is here. So anyway, Belarus is a great place, and I don't know, you'll hear more about it when I move to Minsk. When the weather gets better, I'll get out and around, and I'll be doing a lot more traveling kind of things, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you the next time. Thanks again.